I love that sound. Sound of the cows munching, making tomorrow's milk. The milk that really drives the profitability of our business. And most of the decisions that we make every day really revolve around this task of feeding cows, making sure that we're looking after them now and next week and next season. But interestingly enough, we can offer this herd of cows so the same access to feed and care. And some of the girls do a much better job of converting that feed into quality milk and improved fertility than others. And it's this difference between animals that we can put down in part to genetics. So when we make the decisions about next year's bull teams, it's really about trying to make sure that we've got really profitable replacements in our herd in 3 years' time. The gap between the best and worst in this herd is as much as $300 worth of profit per cow per year. That's profit, $300 profit per cow per year. I'd much rather have those more profitable cows in this herd than the least. And the Balanced Performance Index, the BPI, it helps us measure the differences between these cows to work out which ones are doing a better job, are being more profitable, and are going to produce more profitable replacements than their counterparts. The time it takes to make genetic choices isn't much compared to feeding or some of the other more intensive areas of the farm business. If we spend a good serious hour each breeding season, we can do a really good job of selecting the right bulls for this herd that are going to improve profitability over time.
At a national level, the genetic evaluation story in Australia is really one of success. Over the past 10 years, we've achieved about $100 of additional profit per cow per year through choosing better sires. The cost of this is less than 2.1% of total farm costs for AI and herd test put together. You might be asking how profit is defined in the genetic context, but it's the additional income received from milk production minus the costs associated with generating that production, as well as valuing economically important traits such as fertility, mastitis resistance, feed saved, longevity, type traits, and workability, so the ease of working with cows in the dairy shed. We summarize these in 3 breeding indices: the Balanced Performance Index that reflects profit per cow per year, the Health Weighted Index, and the Type Weighted Index that allow farmers to choose bulls that are best matched with their breeding priorities. While this talk of improvements made at a national level is interesting, you might be more interested to drill down into what's happening in a feeding system such as yours and your operation. And the Feeding the Genes project, led by John Morton, was really helpful in describing the change in production and longevity with using high BPI sires in 5 different feed systems that operate in Australia. And this is from a low bale system, which is a low level of supplement fed and mostly pasture based, through to a total mixed ration system where cows don't access pasture on a regular basis. And as you can see, in every single one of the feeding systems, the higher BPI animals are certainly outperforming their low BPI counterparts in each of those 5 feeding systems. But then people will ask the question, do the cows last? And obviously it's important to have cows that not only produce well, but last a long time. And it's pleasing to note that cows in all feeding systems last as long, if not longer, if they're higher BPI compared to the lower BPI counterparts. And this gives us a good level of confidence that selecting higher BPI animals does make a real difference to on-farm performance. I'll use one more example of how breeding values can drive change on farm, and that's by looking at the daughter fertility, ABV. And what this graph shows is the change in 6-week in calf rate if we're using sires that are higher for the daughter fertility ABV. And there's quite a significant difference in the 6-week in calf rate, both in Jerseys and in Holsteins, if we're using the higher daughter fertility ABV, for example, bulls above 105, compared to their lower daughter fertility ABV counterparts. Genetics makes a practical on-farm difference that is easy to obtain just by making sure we're selecting the appropriate sires with every joining.